In the riverside quarter of Nsuka Town, where the air always smelled of roasted corn and rain-soaked dust, lived Ibari Kalu, a gifted African artist whose hands seemed born to create beauty. At 32, Ibari painted murals that made cracked walls feel alive and sang songs that turned ordinary evenings into ceremonies. Her voice carried the weight of old drums and the lightness of morning birds, and when she sang, even the restless streets listened. Ibari believed art was bread for the soul. When money was scarce, she baked soft loaves glazed with honey and spices and sold them alongside her songs. People joked that her voice made the bread rise better. Children followed her like a parade whenever she passed, humming half-learned melodies and begging for crumbs. But Nsuka Town was also ruled by fear. Touts haunted the bus stops and alleyways, men who lived by intimidation, feeding on the silence of the community. Everyone knew them, everyone avoided them, and everyone pretended they did not exist. One evening, as the sun bled orange into the river, Ibari walked home with her canvas bag and a small tin of money from bread sales. She was tired but happy. A new song was forming in her chest, one about mothers and moonlight. The touts saw her before she saw them. They followed laughing, demanding money that wasn't theirs. Ibari refused, not loudly, not proudly, just firmly. She had earned every coin. Her refusal offended them more than resistance ever could. In that dark stretch of road where even the streetlights were broken, they beat her and left her like discarded cloth on the ground. No one came out, no door opened, no voice rose. By morning, Nsuka Town woke to the news it already expected and pretended shocked them. Candles were lit, tears were shed, murals faded in silence, and then the ovens began to warm themselves. 3 nights after her burial, a bakery appeared at the edge of the market, where no building had stood before. Its walls shimmered like heat over sand, and from inside came singing, not a song anyone recognized, but one their bones remembered. Behind the counter stood a woman. She was full-figured, radiant, her hips wide and powerful, like carved fertility statues, her skin glowing as if brushed with firelight. Her hair was wrapped in bright cloth, and flour dusted her hands like sacred chalk. Her eyes shone, kind, furious, knowing. It was Ibari, and it was not. She sang as she baked. Each loaf carried a note, each note a memory. Those who had ignored her screams felt their chests tighten when they heard her voice. Those who had laughed at her art felt their tongues burn when they tasted her bread. The touts came last. Drawn by hunger they couldn't explain, they entered the bakery one by one. The ovens roared like drums. The song changed, soft at first, then heavy with judgment. The walls closed in, not physically, but spiritually. They were forced to feel everything they had taken: safety, dignity, life. By morning, the bakery was gone. So were the touts. Nsuka Town was never the same. People spoke more. Doors opened faster. Children sang louder. New murals appeared overnight, of a woman baking, singing, watching. They say Ibari still walks the streets before dawn, a warm loaf under her arm, her song floating just above the ground. She does not haunt out of cruelty, but remembrance, because some ghosts are not here to scare the living. Some are here to teach them how to live. When the sun rose, it found a town that remembered, not with fear, but with open doors and shared bread, with walls that sang where silence once lived. Her name was no longer a whisper or a wound. It was a lesson carried in color, in ovens warmed from many hands, in children who learned to look and speak and stay. She did not return to haunt them. She returned to teach them how to keep each other alive, and in that remembering, the streets finally learned how to listen. She left them a song, not of fire, but of warmth, not of ghosts, but of gathering. Where her blood once cooled the dust, flowers learned their names. Where doors once stayed shut, Hands now reach first. The ovens remember, the walls remember. The river carries her voice forward. She is not the woman they lost. She is the town they became. Ibari did not leave Nsuka all at once. For a while she lingered in the hours before dawn, when even guilt sleeps and truth walks barefoot. She watched children trace her murals with their fingers. She listened as women argued loudly now, unafraid. She smiled when bread was shared without counting. Nsuka had learned, not perfectly, but honestly. And when a place learns honestly, a ghost no longer needs to stay. The night she left, the river lifted its mist like a veil. Ibari stepped into it, warm loaf tucked beneath her arm out of habit, her song folded inside her chest. The water did not drown her sound. It carried it. Southwest, beyond red earth roads and forest bends, beyond towns that spoke different rhythms, lay a village where the air tasted of kola nut and palm oil, where language danced in tonal steps, where names were prayers. The Yoruba village of Keala woke one morning to a woman walking in from the road as if she had always been expected. She arrived without drama, no firelight, no glowing ovens, just a full-figured woman in a simple wrapper and head tie, skin warm, eyes deep with having seen. The elders noticed first. They always did. Not because she announced herself, but because the ground felt settled when she stepped on it. Eku aro, she greeted them softly, and something in her voice made the morning answer back. Ibari did not call herself a ghost. In Keala, no one asked. Spirits, ancestors, travelers, the living, these were not rigid boxes here. A person was known by what they restored. She began small. She helped an old woman whose hands shook too much to knead dough. She sang while grinding pepper, and the song steadied the rhythm. She painted quietly, symbols first, not faces, on a wall near the shrine of Osun, where water met stone, and women came to ask for children, for healing, for courage. The village noticed that bread tasted fuller when she baked it. They noticed that quarrels softened when she sang. They noticed that children who feared their voices began to hum. It took time before anyone realized Ibari did not age. Years passed like seasons, and she remained, her laugh deepening but her face unchanged, her strength unthinned by time. When asked where she came from, she answered honestly, "From a place where my life was cut short." No bitterness, just fact. The Olopa, the village custodian of stories, was the one who finally named her truth. "You are not unfinished," he said one evening, watching her paint a mural of women baking beneath a wide moon. "You are completing yourself elsewhere." In Keala, Ibari's purpose unfolded gently. She taught girls to paint their stories before the world tried to erase them. She taught boys that strength did not require silence from others. She taught elders new songs that braided old drum patterns with melodies no one could trace to a single land. She baked bread not to judge, not to punish, but to nourish futures. And at night, when the moon was full and the village slept, Ibari sometimes walked to the river and sang softly to the water, not of Nsuka's pain, but of its lesson. The river listened, as rivers always do, and carried the song onward, to other towns, other crossings, other places where someone's purpose might be waiting for permission to live. When Ibari finally felt the quiet satisfaction of a life fulfilled, she did not vanish. She rested. They say in Keala there is still a woman who paints murals that never crack, whose bread feeds more than hunger, whose songs teach people how to stay human. Some say she is ancestor, some say she is alive. The village does not argue, because they know this much is true. A life cut short is not always a life ended. Sometimes it simply learns a new path and keeps walking until the song is finished.